Everybody. Today is Monday, and today we got an interesting conversation. David, what are we talking about?
We're going to talk about something that should scare the living crap out of you. Critical race theory in school. Not sure what that means? We'll tell you about it in about 10 seconds. Hey everybody, David Solomon here in Montreal, Stuart Brisgell in Florida. We're coming to you, just in case you didn't remember, live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon. What do? We rant about the topics that you think about, you might be afraid to talk to your friends about, or go onto social media about. We simply have no fear. We simply have no issues about going after the people and the topics that might be bejeebering you. Now, if you're not sure about what critical race theory is, this is a perfect example of what the Rant Network will stand for. Topics that are sliding through the system that should be of concern. So for those of you who are uncertain about critical race theory, basically I'm going to let Stuart give you all a real quick lesson as to what is critical race theory, where did it come from, and then I'm going to jump in and tell you why we should all be scared out of our minds. Stuart, take it away, buddy.
Well, all right. So let's first understand CRT, critical race theory. Now, there's different variations. People use different fancy topics, but in the essence, this was created in the 1970s, in a school called Harvard, where the theory
Never heard of it. It's
that underprivileged school, right? In the Massachusetts area. It's called in lower school, right?
Yep.
And so in Harvard, they came to the conclusion that if you're white, you're systemically a racist, right? And CRT basically defines it as no matter which way you're going to look at it, you're a racist. And no matter how you're going to teach about it, either side you're on, you're still a racist. So, and like, there was a video that I watched I saw Prager. It talks about a black and a white guy walk into the store. If you treat the black guy first, it's because you're in fear that he's going to rob you. If you treat the white guy first, well, then you're a racist for not treating the black guy first. But let me throw a twist in there. And this sounds like a Newfie joke, but it's really not. You got the black guy, the white guy, and now you got the Asian guy. Who the hell do you serve first? And so no matter what happens with CRT, critical race theory, you are automatically going to be a racist, right? Instead of looking for the solutions of things, you're looking at the problems. It's like everyone must be a victim and must be saved. I don't know. The president of the United States, he doesn't seem to be formally, we're talking about President Barack Obama, doesn't seem to be claiming too much CRT, resistance. But this is something that really also started where you're looking at the first 400 years of America, of the world, North America, Europe, right? And you're insinuating that the first 400 years were all wrong. Let's throw everything we ever did in the garbage and let's reinvent it. Basically taking the concept of the United States and turning it upside down. And I guess without getting into much more about where does it come from, the past president, wrote into law that this is divisive. This is how you take parties and put them at odds with each other. And the only gain by doing something like that is to cause chaos while you pass other legislation that doesn't make it to the media. And again, I'm going to get off topic like I always do. So, David, there's your brief history of, critical race theory.
Well, here's the thing, guys, and this is where we should all be worried. Stuart, you brought up a really good point.
I did.
To go back in history. No, to go back and to rewrite history. Look, folks, I don't know about you, but we're all living in countries or states or provinces where religion is being removed out of school. Why? We're worried about influencing the young with these religious ideas. But you know what? North America, in any way, shape, or form, is based on Judeo-Christian values. Mm-hmm. The value system put forward, i.e., honor thy mother and thy father, the notion of the family, the notion of thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not, commit all these wonderful things that America was created on. Yeah, got news for you. It's not just America that is racist. If you've been to other parts of the world, if you go to the Middle East today and you are not a Muslim, guess what's going to happen to you in some of these countries? If you go to China, if you think you're going to be treated like an equal, go speak to all the exchange students who went to Hong Kong and go to China and to ask them how they were treated when they were there. Folks, everything cannot be boxed into the notion that every decision we make is predicated on race. Because if that were true, you are negating history. Because to tell me that all blacks are created equal, and they're all victims, I'm not so sure. And if you're going to tell me that all whites are supremacists and are treated equal, I'm not so sure. And if you're not sure about that, ask the Ku Klux Klan, folks. Ask any of those organizations that went after Jews, the Irish, the Italians, because they weren't pure white Americans. So don't lump everything into this clean box that it's all predicated on skin, because I'll tell you something. If you're going to start pushing that theory through, what are you telling white people and what are you telling minorities? Minorities, you're always a victim. No matter what you do, you have no chance at success. Really? Didn't you just have an African-American president for 8 years? So your race theory, if that's the case, means that Barack Obama should never have reached the most powerful position in the world.
The highest office of the land. But you know what? But there's another oxymoron to this. Let's talk about Uncle Tim. Tim Scott, right? They tried so hard to discredit this guy. Number one, he is an absolutely amazing speaker who, by the way, is an attorney. He can talk above most of these reporters that are wannabe attorneys. This guy spoke at the people, to the people, for the people, as a cotton farmer's son, right? This guy is the definition of what an American is. He's like, I don't want to be treated like I'm a second-rate person. That means I have to admit that I'm not equal to everyone else.
Stuart, let's take Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States. Hold on a second. Forget it. Hold on.
Talking about a socialist.
No, Stuart.
Yep.
I am not discussing their politics. I'm talking about what they've achieved in life. Don't you dare tell me that the victimization of it, because this is what race theory pushes. It pushes
she's a woman and black.
No. All that matters is that she's black and that she is a victim. If tomorrow morning Joe Biden drops dead, she is the next president of the United States. So please do me a favor. All this BS about victimization is bunk. I'll give you another example. Let's take away African Americans. Nikki Haley. For those of you who do not know, Nikki Haley comes from Indian descent, i.e. India, not our indigenous peoples.
Not Elizabeth Warren?
Not
Elizabeth Warren. Like I gotta talk. You want to talk about Elizabeth? Want to talk about racist?
Hold on. I'll get to you that in a second. But Nikki Haley went out and said she is the proof of an American immigrant family who came here, who endured racism from both black and white communities. Let's be clear. She was victimized by both. And she said, I don't care. I'm going to become something better. And look what she's become. And please, guys, if the whole point of this critical race theory that's frightening is that the people who want to put this into schools are making this up as they go along.
Okay, so let's get back on this topic. So CRT in schools, right? We spent decades removing religion from schools, correct, whether it's American or Canadian. So they wanted church and state, that whole separation, right? And then now you want to remove gender from schools. Sorry, I forgot one of the steps, right? So now you remove religion. Now you're removing gender. Now you want to put in its place, which is CRT, which is basically indoctrinating another religion, just very similar to Marxism.
I wouldn't call it a religion. Because Marxism is not a religion. No, Marxism is not. It's a. Let me tell you something.
It's got its own list of morals. Okay, it's got its own value system. Why?
If you want to call it a religion, I don't really care what you want to call it. But as a history and political science major, it's not a religion. It's a social belief. And you know what the worst part of it all is, folks? In the last 100 years, There were two societies that predicated its own belief system on
Oh, I like
race.
it. Good point.
The Nazis in the
Oh,
1930s and 40s and apartheid South Africa. If the
that's
United
right.
States and then eventually Canada wants to start teaching race theory in schools,
Yep.
you are going to end up in one of these types of camps.
But
where
isn't
you're
it amazing
continue
that this all started in Harvard?
Yes.
The pinnacle of all education systems, renowned in the world, is the breeding ground of the ultimate racist plague.
Listen, I am sorry to tell you this, but you know what, folks? It doesn't surprise me, because where did the quotas for admittance come from? If you thought it didn't come from the university systems, Ivy League schools limited admittance to Asians, non-Protestants, to Jews. If you ask anybody who was in Harvard in the 70s and 80s, they will admit to these quotas. So why are we surprised that out of the Harvard system, we're going to come up with this race theory? Because again, it's all about divisiveness.
Hey,
It isn't about.
hang on a second. You got Howard University. It's an all-black university, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have an all-white university in the United
No,
States?
you see, but hold on a second. It's the same thing we said about golf courses. If you were to have,
how about Georgia? Condoleezza Wright is the first black and female member for the Green Jacket.
Excuse me. Yes, at Augusta. But guys, it's really simple. The frightening part here is that you, as a parent, my kids are into university and know this argument. But if your kids or you have friends who have kids are going into elementary and high school and maybe even starting university, if they're not aware that this is coming right at them, it's trouble. You're going to have a child come home and say, Mom, Dad, if we're white, we're always wrong. And if you're a minority, we're always a victim. That's all your child is going to learn. Where is the aspiration? Where is the contradiction? You cannot make it, pardon me, this black and white. It isn't. Correct. It is not. There are 50 shades of gray here in the relationships. Because if you're going to tell me that let's take a white Jew is a white supremacist, I mean, are you kidding me? You're negating our entire history. We walked with Martin Luther King side by side. And Martin Luther King, by the way, would be turning in his grave knowing that this is
they call MLK, he was wrong. CRT movement believes Martin Luther King was wrong. And right. I'm sorry. I mean, listen, you have these advocates. You cannot stand on one side and claim you're a Black Panther, claim you want CRT, and think Martin Luther King was wrong and bad. That's the movement of CRT.
And I got to tell you, folks, and here's the other part of it, and I've been crapping on national media for the longest time, but when President Trump was in power and he completely was against CRT, Time said, oh, of course, you see, he's trying to be divisive and he's negating the plight. Therefore, Trump is a racist. This is Time magazine. Folks, it is not that clear. No time in history, politics, social, that you could come up with a definition that is, pardon me, pure, because I don't want to use the Nazi term, but the pure, that it is exactly fit into this box. It has never occurred. It's a hybrid. There are thousands and thousands of reasons why we've evolved, hold on a second, in society as we have. And to claim that it's only predicated on racism is exactly what these movements want you to believe, and how we're going to impact our future generations to make these absolutely false decisions. I am not going to tolerate anybody who's a minority coming to me that I'm a victim. Because victimization means you are abdicating any form of responsibility. No.
Okay, David, but you're forgetting some of this issue. On one side, they want to tear down monuments and they want to remove things from history, when in fact that also contradicts everything about CRT. In fact, it's the history of the last 400 years. Now, you know what? The current administration, I'm sorry. This clown's in politics for 50 years. Where was he before about, being a racist? Maybe this Klansman, who actually is a guy who went to a Klansman funeral, who's really a three-finger guy, the Biden clan, maybe he needs to try and project an alter ego because the guy is a racist. And Camilla Harris has got this wacko generational type thing going on, and she did nothing. She put more blacks in jail. So CRT up you, because that's all I'm going to say, because it's just ridiculous.
It's all become a political game. The media's grabbed onto it to further the cause that we are racists. Guys, there is racism in society. We can all acknowledge that. I've experienced it. Stuart's have experienced it. We've in our ways have experienced some form of racism. It doesn't mean that society in its foundation and its future is predicated on this harsh form of race theory. Ladies and gentlemen, my message to you in conclusion is you need to scream at your school boards. You need to scream at everybody.
Message your principals. Mention your administration.
Member your congressman, your member of parliament. I don't care who it is. This theory, if it actually gets into schools.
It is in schools.
We are finished. We are finished as a society.
Big problems.
Society will crumble. Ladies and gentlemen,
what do you got on Wednesday?
Okay, on Wednesday, if you watch the Oscars, speaking of politics, if you watch any of the Emmys, if you watch the Grammys, if you watch the Tonys,
I didn't.
I know I don't either, but my son does, and other people do, and it's become a platform of let's crap on politics.
I hate myself America Day.
I hate myself America Day. Well, on Wednesday, we're going to point out all of this kind of crap.
They remember to say, thank God. They say, thank you, God. I hate myself because I'm an American. Right. Okay. Let's get it right.
Well, it goes way beyond that. When did we allow these shows in Hollywood to suddenly become our moral compass and give them the ability to speak on our behalf? Never. On Wednesday, Stuart and I are going to rant about the moronic aspect that is politics and Hollywood. Not acceptable. Folks, rant at therantnetwork.com, our Facebook page, the Rant Network. Join us. We'll see you on Wednesday at noon. Cheers, everyone.